At what point do people generally decide to create a post-nuptial agreement? Attorney Brian McNamara explains that. Post-nuptial agreements can vary a lot in terms of when married couples decide to execute them. It usually involves some event that causes them to think about it. The most common ones are creditors of one spouse or taxes, and it is often done instead of a divorce where there is difficulty in the marriage, and they do not want to get a divorce, but they need to know what happens if it does not work out. Often, one spouse needs to know they will be financially taken care of. Discussions of divorce may arise because of a spouse's spending habits or tendency to incur debt. The frugal one might be willing to work on the marriage if spending is separated. This can be healthy because it might remove stress associated with different views about money. Sometimes a spouse is unfaithful, and the only way the other will agree to work on the marriage is if they know that if it does not work, they will be taken care of. I did a partition and exchange agreement, or postnup, for a married couple where one spouse had a pre-existing IRS debt. It was not a joint return, and you cannot do away with tax liability on a joint return by signing a prenup or postnup. One spouse had pre-existing IRS debt, and the IRS was threatening to levy on community assets, including joint bank accounts. I separated it all out in a partition and exchange agreement, and the spouse who did not owe the tax reported that it had gone to the IRS in Washington, D.C., and, ultimately, they accepted it and did not pursue the separate property of the spouse who did not owe the tax. Everything acquired during marriage is community property, and a creditor, including the IRS, may levy against community property to satisfy either spouse's debt. A marital agreement cannot be used to defraud existing creditors, but it can be used to avoid future creditors, and possibly past ones, depending on how the debt was incurred. Contact attorney Brian McNamara in Houston, Texas, for an initial consultation at 713-955-1844. Or visit his website at www.houstonprenups.com.